Dr. Zara Chen pressed her back against the weathered stone pillar, feeling the ancient metal shackles bite into her wrists. The Kelhari elders had performed their ritual with solemn precision. Prayers whispered in their clicking tongue, ceremonial oils dabbed on her forehead, and finally, the chains that would hold her until the sand beast came to claim its tribute. The research station's lights flickered like dying stars in the distance, barely visible through the perpetual haze that shrouded Keth 7's surface. Her colleagues had protested her decision, but Zara understood what they couldn't. This wasn't just about studying alien cultures anymore. The seismic readings had been escalating for weeks, and the massive creature stirring beneath the dunes would soon emerge to level everything in its path, unless appeased. Elder Vexhai had explained the ancient compact with trembling mandibles. "The deep dweller remembers the old wounds," he'd clicked in broken standard. "Settlement scars on sacred ground. Only willing flesh can heal the breach between worlds." The translation algorithms struggled with the theological concepts, but the meaning was clear enough. Someone had to die so others could live. As the first tremors began beneath her feet, Zara thought about her research on extremophile organisms. Life. Forms that thrived in impossible conditions. She'd spent years documenting how species adapted to hostile environments, never imagining she'd become a test subject herself. The irony wasn't lost on her that a xenobiologist studying adaptation was about to become an evolutionary dead end. The wind began to shift, carrying with it something more than just sand and grit. There was an organic smell, like ozone mixed with decomposing vegetation, impossible on this barren world. The tremors intensified, and somewhere in the distance, she heard a sound that defied description. Part whale song, part tectonic shift, part dying scream. Through her suit's sensors, she monitored her vital signs with clinical detachment. Elevated heart rate, spiking adrenaline, but her breathing remained steady. Years of field work in dangerous environments had trained her well. Whatever was coming, she would face it as a scientist first, a sacrifice second. The ground beneath. The pillar began to crack, revealing glimpses of something vast and pale, moving in the depths. The sand beast was rising, and Dr. Zara Chen was about to discover that some adaptations were more literal than others. The Duststorm hit with the force of a living thing, transforming the world into a howling veil of amber and rust. Zara's suit sealed automatically, its atmospheric processors working overtime to filter the particulate matter that could strip flesh from bone in minutes. Through the chaos, she felt rather than heard the approach of something immense, vibrations that traveled up through the pillar and into her bones. But then, impossibly, she saw movement within the storm that defied its patterns. Where the wind should have been chaotic, there was purpose. Where debris should have scattered randomly, there was design. And walking toward her through the maelstrom, untouched by the killing winds, came a human figure. He moved with fluid grace, each step perfectly timed to the storm's rhythm. The sand parted around him like water around a ship's hull, creating a pocket of relative calm that traveled with him. As he drew closer, Zara could see that his skin had a strange metallic sheen, and his eyes reflected light like polished copper. "You're not supposed to be here," she called out, her voice nearly lost in the wind. The approaching figure smiled, an expression both familiar and utterly alien. "Neither are you, Dr. Chen," he replied, his voice carrying clearly despite the storm. "My name is Marcus Webb, though the Kelhari call me Dustwalker. I've been living in symbiosis with the deep dwellers for 7 years now." Zara's scientific mind raced even as her survival instincts screamed warnings. "That's impossible. Humans can't survive the radiation levels in the deep desert. The atmospheric composition alone would kill an unmodified human, yes." Marcus extended his hand toward her shackles, and she watched in fascination as his fingers elongated slightly, developing what looked like organic tools. But I'm not entirely human anymore. The organisms down there, they're not just terraformers, they're genetic architects. They've been waiting for a species capable of true symbiosis. As he worked on her restraints, Zara noticed the intricate patterns beneath. His skin, not tattoos, but actual biological structures, pulsing with their own internal light. "You're infected," she breathed. "Enhanced," he corrected. "The question is whether you're ready to be enhanced too. Because that thing rising from the depths isn't coming to kill you, Dr. Chen. It's coming to evaluate you. And if you're found compatible." The shackles fell away with a metallic clatter. "Well, let's just say your research into extremophile adaptation is about to become very personal." The creature that emerged from the shattered earth defied every category Zara's scientific training had provided. It wasn't quite animal, wasn't quite plant, wasn't quite machine, yet somehow incorporated elements of all three. Massive biomechanical tendrils the size of transit tubes writhed skyward, their surfaces covered in what looked like circuit patterns that pulsed with bioluminescent signals. Marcus placed a steady hand on her shoulder as she stared in awe and terror. "The first time is overwhelming," he said softly. "Your mind keeps trying to categorize it as something familiar, but the deep dwellers exist outside our taxonomies. They're living terraforming systems, ecosystem builders left behind by a civilization that understood the true meaning of adaptation." The creature's attention turned toward them, and Zara felt a pressure in her mind, not painful but intensely foreign. Images flooded her consciousness. Keth 7, as it had been millions of years ago, lush and green, the slow death that followed some cosmic catastrophe. And then the patient work of restoration, one spore at a time, one symbiotic partnership at a time. "The settlements," she gasped, understanding flooding through her. "They're not random targets. They're built on transformation nodes." Exactly. Every time the Kelhari expand their mining operations, they destroy decades of careful biological architecture. The deep dwellers aren't attacking. They're trying to save their work. And they're running out of time. Through the psychic connection, Zara could sense the creature's vast loneliness. It had been working alone for millennia, following programming, embedded in its genetics by masters long dead. But now it sensed potential partners, beings capable of conscious cooperation rather than mere instinctual symbiosis. "The bait rituals," she said, pieces clicking into place. "You've been orchestrating them." Marcus nodded grimly. "Looking for humans compatible with the enhancement process. Most aren't. The psychological shock alone kills them. But you're different. Your xenobiology background, your study of extremophiles. You understand adaptation at a cellular level. You might be able to survive the integration." The deep dweller's tendrils moved closer, and Zara could see microscopic organisms flowing. Across their surfaces, the agents of transformation. Her rational mind cataloged the risks: genetic modification of unknown extent, psychological integration with an alien intelligence, possible loss of human identity. But her scientist's curiosity was stronger than her fear. "What happens to humanity if this works?" she asked. "We become something new," Marcus replied. "Something that can heal worlds instead of destroying them. But the choice has to be yours. Zara, the symbiosis only works with willing participants." Zara's hand trembled as she reached toward the nearest tendril, its surface alive with patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid circuitry. The moment her fingertips made contact, her world exploded into sensation beyond anything human. Neurology was designed to process. She experienced the planet's history in geological time, continents shifting, oceans boiling away, the slow suffocation of a dying biosphere. But threaded through the death was hope. Microscopic architects working tirelessly to preserve genetic templates, to maintain the possibility of renewal. The deep dwellers weren't just terraformers. They were librarians of life itself, guardians of evolutionary potential. The integration began at the cellular level. She felt her DNA unwinding, being read like ancient text, then carefully rewritten with new chapters. Her enhanced nervous system stretched beyond the boundaries of her skin, connecting her to the vast network of organisms that Marcus called the Deep Web, a planet-spanning intelligence built from billions of cooperative life forms. Fighting. "It will drive you insane," Marcus warned, his voice reaching her through multiple channels simultaneously, auditory, psychic, and something she didn't have words for. "Let it happen. Let yourself become more than human." Through her expanding awareness, Zara sensed other nodes in the network. Marcus was there, his consciousness like a warm beacon in the alien vastness. But there were others too. Failed attempts at symbiosis that had become something neither human nor fully integrated, trapped in liminal states of partial transformation. Dr. Elena Vasquez from the Kepler Station expedition, Commander Jake Harrison from the failed Mars terraforming project, dozens of others who had been lost on frontier worlds, their disappearances blamed on equipment failures or hostile environments. All of them had been recruited by the Deep Dwellers, and not all had survived the process intact. "The failure rate," she gasped, her vocal cords already beginning to change. "You didn't tell me about the failure rate." "Would you have chosen differently?" Marcus asked, and she could feel his genuine curiosity through the link. "Even knowing the odds, would you have walked away?" The honest answer surprised her. No. Her entire career had been built on the assumption that life would find a way to adapt, to survive, to transcend its limitations. Now she was living proof of that principle becoming something unprecedented in human evolution. But with enhanced perception came enhanced responsibility. Through the deep web, she could sense the mining operations, the expanding settlements, the systematic destruction of carefully cultivated biological infrastructure. Every day, humanity remained ignorant of the planet's true nature, irreversible. Damage was being done. "We have to warn them," she said, though her concept of "we" was expanding to include entities that had never been human. "And then what?" Marcus replied. "You think they'll listen? You think they'll abandon profitable mining operations based on the testimony of someone who's no longer technically human?" The transformation was accelerating, and Zara realized she was approaching a point of no return. Part 5. The New Compact 3. Months after her transformation, Dr. Zara Chen stood before the Kelhari Council of Elders, but she was no longer the woman who had volunteered to be bait for the sand beast. Her skin held the same metallic sheen as Marcus's, and when she spoke, harmonics in her voice suggested she was communicating on multiple frequencies simultaneously. "The Deep Dwellers offer a new compact," she announced, her words translating automatically into the clicking language of the Kelhari. Not sacrifice, but partnership. Not appeasement, but cooperation. Elder Vexhi's mandibles quivered with barely controlled fear. "You are no longer of the surface world, Changed One. How can we trust words spoken by one who serves the deep?" Through her enhanced senses, Zara could perceive the Elder's biological processes. Elevated stress hormones, rapid heartbeat, the chemical signature of religious awe mixed with terror. But she could also sense something else. Curiosity. The Kelhari had been locked in a cycle of fear and sacrifice for generations. Part of them wanted to believe in an alternative. "Because I remember being human," she replied. "Because I choose to remain connected to my origin species even as I've become something more. The Deep Dwellers don't want servants. They want partners, conscious collaborators in the work of planetary restoration." She gestured toward the viewing ports that showed the research station in the distance. Her former colleagues were visible through telescopic enhancement, tiny figures going about their daily routines, unaware that their planet was quietly transforming around them. Humanity excels at rapid adaptation and creative problem-solving. The deep dwellers possess genetic archives spanning millions of years and technology that can reshape worlds. Together, we could accomplish something neither species could achieve alone: true ecological harmony. Marcus materialized from the shifting sands outside the council chamber, his movement so fluid it seemed like the desert itself had taken human form. Behind him, shapes moved in the dunes. Not sand beasts, but other enhanced humans who had successfully integrated with the planetary consciousness. The choice is simple, Zara continued. Continue the old compact of fear and sacrifice watching. Your worlds slowly die despite the deep dwellers' patient work. Or join us in becoming something new. Something that can heal the damage done by centuries of misunderstanding. Elder Vexhai was silent for a long moment, his compound eyes reflecting the bioluminescent patterns that now decorated Zara's skin. Finally, he spoke. And if we refuse, then we'll continue the work without you, Marcus replied. But it will take centuries instead of decades, and many more worlds will die before we can save them. The galaxy is vast, Elder. We can't heal it one planet at a time through fear and misunderstanding. Through the deep web, Zara sensed the moment of decision approaching, not just for the Kalahari, but for humanity itself. The transformation she had undergone was spreading, carried by volunteers who understood that evolution sometimes required conscious choice rather than blind adaptation. In research stations across the frontier, scientists were beginning to ask new questions about the strange organisms they'd been cataloging. On colony worlds, reports filtered in of humans who had survived impossible conditions, their biology subtly altered by contact with alien life. The age of purely human exploration was ending. The age of symbiotic expansion was about to begin, and Dr. Zara Chen, no longer entirely human but not yet fully something else, stood at the threshold between worlds, ready to help her species take its next evolutionary step among the stars.